You've probably heard the cloud described as just renting someone else's computer, right? And yeah, that's a pretty good way to start thinking about it. But it immediately brings up a really important question. So, when you rent that computer, what are you actually responsible for? Do you have to build everything from scratch? Or does the cloud provider, handle some of the heavy lifting for you? The answer to that question is what defines the different cloud service models. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. Okay, probably the easiest way to wrap your head around all this is with a simple analogy. Think about housing. When you need a place to live, you've basically got three choices, right? And they map perfectly to the cloud. You could get some empty land, you could rent a furnished apartment, or you could just check into a hotel. Let's start with that first one, the empty land. So this first option, it's called Infrastructure as a Service, or IaaS for short. And yeah, it is exactly like buying a plot of empty land. The provider gives you the raw foundation, but guess what? You're the one who has to build the entire house on top of it. So what is this raw infrastructure we're talking about? Well, the cloud provider hands you the absolute basic building blocks. We're talking virtual machines, storage for your files, and the networking to connect it all. But after that, everything else, and I really mean everything else, is on you. This is the model you choose when you need absolute total control. Maybe you have an old legacy system that needs a very specific setup, or you're under some strict compliance rules that mean you have to manage every little detail. And if you look at who manages what, the split is super clear. The cloud provider, they handle the physical stuff. The actual network cables, the hard drives spinning in a data center somewhere, the servers. But you're responsible for installing the operating system, whether that's Linux or Windows, plus the runtime your code needs to execute, and of course the application itself. So let's bring this back to our Notes app. If we were going to put it on an IaaS platform, we'd have to do all that heavy lifting ourselves. We'd have to fire up a virtual machine, install Linux on it, set up and configure our database, push our code over, and figure out how to scale it if a ton of people start using it. The key takeaway here is pretty simple. You get maximum control, but that comes with maximum responsibility. But what if you don't want to build a whole house from the ground up? That's a lot of work. Well, that brings us to option number 2, Platform as a Service, or PaaS. And this is like renting a furnished apartment. The landlord deals with the building, the plumbing, the furniture. All you have to do is show up with your own stuff. With PaaS, you get to focus on what you're actually good at, writing code. You just hand your application over to the cloud provider, and they take care of the entire underlying platform. We're talking managing the operating system, applying security patches, handling the runtime. All that tedious work is just done for you. And that means you can ship features way, way faster. Just look at this table. See how much responsibility has shifted over to the cloud side? The operating system, the runtime, that's now the cloud provider's problem, not yours. Your job boils down to managing your application code and your data. For developers, this is a huge time saver. Okay, so back to our Notes app again. On a PaaS platform, we wouldn't even think about the operating system. We'd literally just push our code up and the platform would automatically run it, scale it up if we get a sudden surge of users, and take care of all the networking. It's so much faster to get going. But, and here's the trade-off, you do give up some of that fine-grained control to customize the environment. All right, and that brings us to our last model. And this is one that honestly we all use every single day. It's software as a service, or SaaS. Think of this as the hotel experience. You don't build anything, you don't bring any furniture, you just check in and everything is ready for you to use. SaaS is simple. It's a finished product. It's a ready-to-use app that you get to through your web browser. You don't manage any part of the software. You just use it. Think about the tools you probably use all the time. Gmail, Slack, GitHub. You just sign up, log in, and start working. The provider is handling absolutely everything behind the scenes. And look at this table. It's pretty telling. Just about everything is the cloud provider's responsibility now. The infrastructure, the OS, the app itself, security, you name it. As a user, what do you manage? Nothing. You just consume the service. It's that simple. Okay, and here's a really cool little twist, a shift in perspective. When someone out there uses our finished Notes app, what are they doing? They're using it as a SaaS product. To them, it makes zero difference if we build it on IaaS or PaaS. They don't care about our servers, they don't care about our code. They are SaaS users, and all they want is for the app to work. All right, so we've looked at IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS one by one. Now let's put them all side by side. Because when you do that, you really start to see the fundamental choice you're making. And it almost always boils down to one thing, a trade-off between control and convenience. Think of this table as your ultimate cheat sheet. As you go from left to right, from IaaS to SaaS, you'll see a really clear pattern. Your control goes down, sure, but so does your level of responsibility and the amount of DevOps work you have to do. On one end, you have something like AWS EC2, which is basically just a raw virtual server. It gives you max flexibility. On the other end, you have Gmail, which is a fixed, totally ready-made solution. And let's zoom in on that DevOps effort for a second, because this is really important. With IaaS, you are essentially building the entire factory from scratch. But with PaaS and SaaS, the factory is already built for you. You're just using it. And that means your team's role, what they spend their time on, changes dramatically depending on which model you pick. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that there is no single best model. It's not about which one is better, it's about what you need. It is always a trade-off. If you absolutely need total control for some unique application, IaaS is your best friend. If your main goal is to deploy an app fast without worrying about servers, PaaS is your go-to. And if you just need a tool that works right out of the box, well, that's SaaS. Okay, so now we get these layers of service, right? But this opens up a whole new question. I'm sure you've heard everyone talking about modern tech like Docker and containers. So where did they fit in? Are they a part of IaaS? Are they their own kind of PaaS? How did they change this picture we just painted? Well, that is exactly what we're going to dive into in our next explainer. I'll see you there.